Hi, today we're going to be doing perpendicular bisectors. So we know what a perpendicular line is. It's a line that meets another line at a 90-degree angle. But what's a bisector? A bisector is a line that cuts something in half. So in this case, the perpendicular bisector is going to cut the line in half at a 90-degree angle. So the line that we're given, the perpendicular bisector, will go through it at exactly the halfway point at a 90-degree angle. Okay, it's both of the things. It's perpendicular and it's a bisector. Bisector cuts it in half. I'm going to show you 4 different ways to construct a perpendicular bisector. I'm going to start with the low-tech one this time. It's incredibly similar to constructing the perpendicular line. After all, that's half of what we have to do here, construct a perpendicular line. But this time it has to go through the midway point. So with paper folding, our low-tech option, when we fold the paper over, the 2 endpoints of the line have to match up on the page. This is kind of hard to do, and it's tricky to get the line to overlap perfectly with the lines meeting up at exactly the same spot. So this may not be the most precise, but if you have no equipment, this is a way to make a perpendicular bisector. And again, the crease is the part that is bisecting that line at a 90-degree angle. Let's try it out. Paper folding is not the easiest method, but it does work. Take the paper and carefully try to meet up the ends. So it's easiest to meet the ends up first and then try to make your fold properly after that. Hopefully I can fold it straight so that the line matches up with itself. If you got a window or something around, you hold it up to the light to see how good of a job you did. I'm going to open this up slowly and see. It looks like I did a pretty decent job. So it's directly in the middle. Both of these 2 sides are equal, and it meets the line at a 90-degree angle. The second method is using our protractor again. Remember how last time we had to put a dot on the line? This time that dot that we're starting off with has to be at a particular spot. It has to be at the halfway point of the line. So we're going to need our ruler to start off. We measure the line, we put the dot at exactly the halfway point of the line. We use our protractor to put the aimer on that dot that we just drew at the halfway point, draw another dot at 90 degrees, and then we draw a line through both of those dots. Let's check it out. Using a protractor and ruler is probably the way that most of you would have just gone about doing this on your own. If I didn't give you any instructions and I said, I want a 90-degree line that splits this line exactly in half. You would have got out your ruler and measured the line. So looks like mine is about 11.6 centimeters. Wow. After I measure it, I figure out what half of 11.6 is. And I know that that would be 5.8 centimeters. So I use my ruler, I find 5.8, and I get the dot as close as I can. And now I have my starting dot for my protractor. Next I get out my protractor, line it up with the zeros. So I line it up with the line that has the zeros, make sure the dot is in the center of my aimer, and I make a dot at 90 degrees. And I simply take my ruler, draw a line straight through those 2 dots. And it can go below the line too, because remember, a line extends forever. You don't have to stop at the line you started with. That's a 90-degree angle. And these 2 sides are equal. The next method is using our compass, and this one is really easy. Again, it's just like doing the perpendicular line, but this time we have to be a little bit more specific with where we put our compass. This time the point of the compass has to go on the endpoints of the line. So the center of the circles that I'm drawing are going to be centered on the endpoints of the line. We could do this other ways, but this is by far the easiest way you can do it. When I set the arms of my compass, it has to be bigger than half of the line. Circles have to be able to overlap and they have to go past the halfway point. Otherwise, the circles won't be big enough. I'll show you what I mean by that when I'm showing you the examples. If the circles are too small, we won't be able to draw a line through where they intersect each other. Let's see it in action. This is actually probably the easiest method of the bunch. All that I need to do is draw two overlapping circles, or half circles. There's one key thing, two key parts actually. Number one, I have to make sure the point of my compass goes on the end of my line, and I have to make sure that the arms of the compass are set more than half of the part. And you can just eyeball this, as long as you can make sure that it's more than half, and I can see that that's more than half, but if I want to be safe, it doesn't hurt to draw the circle a little bit bigger. It really doesn't matter. So I draw a half circle on that side, I move my compass point over to the other end point of the line, and I draw my other half of the circle. And these two intersection points are what we're looking for, and that's where we use a ruler and draw the line down the middle. This line is perpendicular, and these two sides are equal, so it's a perpendicular bisector. And the last way, all we need is a ruler, but this one is the most confusing. It's pretty easy once you get the hang of it, but getting started with it is oftentimes pretty confusing. We're going to be using our ruler to draw 4 lines, and we have to put our ruler in 2 positions. So what's going to happen is I'm going to line up this side of my ruler with one endpoint, and I'm going to line up this side of my ruler with the other endpoint. It's going to go slanted across the line. And then I'm going to trace this side, trace the other side. Next step, I flip it around so that I put this side of my ruler on the opposite endpoint, and this one goes on the opposite of the other endpoint that it was at before. And then I do the same thing, I trace towards the middle. It's going to give me a diamond shape, and then I'm going to use my ruler to draw a line through the other 2 vertices of the diamond shape. Let's check it out. The key is get this side of the ruler on one endpoint and get this side of the ruler on the other endpoint. I'm going to put this side of the ruler on this end of the line. I got to keep it there. I got to make sure it lines up with that end, that edge of the ruler, and then I'm going to make sure that this side of the ruler, the other side, goes to the other endpoint. I'm going to let the endpoints poke out a little bit so you can see them. You can see one endpoint right here, and you can see one endpoint right here. I'm going to draw lines towards the middle on either side of the ruler. Has to go past the middle of the line. There we go. So you can see that pattern. I've got those 2 sides, but I'm not done. I used this endpoint with this side of the line before, and I use this side with this side, and I've got to flip it around, so I'm using the other edge of the ruler for each endpoint. I'm doing the exact same thing. I'm lining it up with the endpoints. You can see them there. And then I draw my lines towards the middle on both sides. You can see I drew 4 lines total. There we go, I have a diamond shape. And similar to where the circles overlap, I'm looking for these spots where the sets of lines intersect each other, and then I draw my line through those. And if I've done this properly, which it looks like I did, 90-degree angle, and those 2 sides are equal, so that's a perpendicular bisector too. This one is going to take some practice. You might not get it your first try. Once you figure out the pattern, it's going to be easy and you're going to get it every time. It could be hard to figure out. Just lining the ruler up properly, knowing where to trace. Those are the things that people find tricky, but once they get it, it's no problem. So that's 4 ways of drawing a perpendicular bisector. Some of these are going to take a bit of practice, especially the one where you're making the diamond shape with the ruler. That one is definitely the trickiest. The other ones are hopefully pretty easy, since you already know how to make perpendicular lines from the last video. I hope this video helped you out.